there's this little voice in my head that's like, hell yeah, man, you're suffering. When I'm at the gym and I don't want to be there and I have no energy and my stomach is making all sorts of noises, a certain song will hit and I just start bobbing my head. It's like, this is the good stuff. This is really good because it makes you feel alive and it makes you appreciate stuff.
You should never want life to not be challenging, because if you do, you're in trouble. Instead, hope that life's challenges become higher quality challenges.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1768, it's Freestyle Friday. The lights are off in the studio. The good vibes are flowing like the salmon of the Capistrano, and we are out here living the dream. For those of you who may be new, Freestyle Friday is us just jumping on and kind of going where the conversation takes us. If you are listening, maybe this is your favorite episode of the week because we've gotten a lot of really, really good feedback. So hopefully today will be no different. What's on my brain? I was talking to somebody on a podcast the other day, and they were asking about, I think the question was, what's the number one thing that made the biggest difference for you since 2017? And I said, habit tracking for sure. Mm-hmm, habit tracking has been the thing that has been the biggest shifter for me. And I said, but I think we overcomplicate it, or people assume that when I say that, it takes away from some of the magic of habit tracking. It's really hard to do. It's hard to do consistently, all of that. But the level of clarity it gives you is amazing. And I said, one of the reasons it's easier, quote unquote, for us to be holistic is because we track health, wealth, and love. There's a lot of people that are really good at tracking certain things. Really good at tracking, this is how many things I have to do at work. I do this, I do this, I do this. This is what I track. But it's not necessarily, well, okay, how are you tracking your relationship? So that's kind of what's on my mind right now is if you don't do habit tracking, or you have your own version, it's not an NLU way or whatever, but you're only tracking like external stuff, like the amount of times I go to the gym, that type of stuff, I would argue that some of the most powerful stuff to track is relationship stuff. Maybe it's internal stuff. What are you struggling with the most? That's the thing you should probably start tracking.
We can give some examples.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, I think we have a digital asset. I believe Jerry Ann, shout out to Jerry Ann, I do believe she created this. It's a worksheet that goes life, love, health, and wealth, and all the different types of habits under each. So if you want to start tracking habits, reach out, alan@nextleveluniverse.com. I will create a little Google Sheet for you, and free of charge. Just want to help. Okay. I'm very grateful. I have 25 clients currently on my roster, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly clients, business coaching clients. Youngest is 16, oldest is 63. Everywhere from, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel to, hey, I've been in business for decades and I'm already a multimillionaire, but I want to be even more successful and impactful. So the one thing that I've been grateful for the most is that I've finally gotten to a place in my coaching practice where I can kind of say this courageously, because I used to not have the courage to say it, but I said this to my most recent new client. I said, I don't want to coach you unless you track habits. The reason why is I don't have certainty that I'll add as much value as possible unless we have some sort of reporting system. Back in middle school, they had something called progress reports. Kevin and I went to the same middle school.
Yes.
In high school, they have report cards. In college, they have a GPA, and if you get below a certain GPA, you get kicked out of college. It's important to track yourself, and we do really well at being accountable when we have someone looking over our shoulder, but we don't like when someone's looking over our shoulder, so why not do it with yourself? And so I'll give you a bunch of different examples of some of these different trackers. So, Kev, I'm going to use yours to start.
Sure.
All right, so Kev tracks gross revenue. He tracks cash on hand. He tracks number of NLPS clients, Next Level Podcast Solutions. He tracks NLU listens. He tracks the number of NLU episodes we have. You also track the number of Podcast Growth University episodes we have. Now, these aren't habits. These are. Right. It's very important to distinguish the difference between a metric and a habit. A habit is green, yellow, red. It's a 0, a 0.5, or a 1. Either you did it, you kind of did it, or you didn't do it. Keep it simple. For a long time, people were doing like, well, I 2/3 did it. It just gets complicated. So we just do green, yellow, red. Metrics are different. Metrics are your weight. It changes each day. You track it each day. Now, there's two types of metrics. There's a cumulative metric, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one of my clients tracks number of days habit tracking. That's a metric that increases by 1 day every day. Brandon has been running a mile a day for 657 days, something crazy. And his mile time, by the way, is like 6:30, something crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so that's a metric. Okay, a habit is, did I run? A metric is number of days I ran in a row. That's a good way to describe it.
Can you slide your mic a little bit away from your face? Your camera's out of focus occasionally. I think that's probably why. Right or here. You have the eye thing on, so when you turn your head a little bit, it goes out of focus. It looks good now, but I'll tell you when you're.
What eye thing?
Like my camera, I don't know if your camera has it. I'm sure it probably does. It knows the focus on my eyes, so when my eyes go away, sometimes, like if I look away, it gets blurry. So sometimes when you're looking to your left, like you're looking down at something, it gets blurry. I don't know. This is real-time troubleshooting.
Here's what I'll do. I'll put this in front of me so that I'm looking at you still. Okay. All right, I'm going to continue. So just some examples of habits that Kevin tracks. Batch WhatsApp. We communicate on our team through WhatsApp. Next Level Nation batch. So he's in Next Level Nation every day. Proactive thoughtfulness in his relationship. Story post. Connect with a listener. Okay, these are just simple habits. So everyone think about your goals. And then think about some habits that you think if you did them consistently, you'd be more successful. Please don't overcomplicate this. This start small and let it build. My new client, he is doing 20 minutes of real estate research. He's doing lesson prep because he's a calculus teacher. Another one of my clients. Okay, anonymously, no vaping. Awesome.
What are the relationship ones like for ones that are in relationships? Or want to improve the relationship with themselves.
Let me give you an example of that one.
I think that one's always hard for. It can be a challenge for people.
Wife and hubby time.
Quality time.
Yep, quality time. That's common, very common.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Quality time with wife or husband. Give me another one. Fitness accountability group sessions. Review finances, 10,000 steps, 10K steps. That's actually fairly common. Fairly common. I think I have 3 clients that do 10K steps.
Shout out to anybody doing 10K steps a day. Good for you.
Some other ones, examples, emergency fund. That's a metric, not a habit. Protein shake. There's a habit. Morning walk. 10 minutes podcast listening. Meaningful check-in. This is one for a relationship as well. Hold on. PM gratitudes. Reading for 30 minutes, deeper relationship with hubby.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so valuable. That's one thing that I've noticed when I go on other shows and I talk about habit tracking. It's always very, very, couple of things. It's always very, very surprising to people that I came up with all this myself. That always blows people's minds when I say I've pretty much architected this whole, kind of the whole thing by myself, just on my own. It kind of came to me one day and I just sat down and I started drawing it out. It's wild.
On a mirror.
Yeah, it's just
or on a window, like in the movies.
It's kind of a gift I have. I don't know. Yeah. It's just something. No, Alan's the one who created it. It's the part of the relationship piece. That's when a lot of people, when I say, well, we break everything into health, wealth, and love. I think the health thing makes sense. It's like, yeah, I weigh myself and I track my calories and that. Try to drink a certain amount of water, whatever. The wealth is, well, yeah, I track my bank account. And I try to learn every day so I can make more money in the business. And maybe it's reach out to one potential client. The relationship one is always when people say, well, what do you do for that? It's like, well, every week we do a check-in, but on the day-to-day, play the gratitude game every single night before bed. We do the thoughtful proactiveness.
Yeah, it's a good
proactive
thoughtfulness.
Thoughtfulness, my goodness.
Think about it. Kev's in the middle of his day. It's 4 p.m. and he's on his tracker, and he's cranking.
Never on my tracker at 4 p.m., son. You know what I mean?
Fair.
I'm working.
Now, let's imagine he sees proactive thoughtfulness. Then that's the trigger. Then the behavior is, okay, I got to think of something cute to do this evening with Taryn. If you're not tracking it, it's most likely not going to happen. That is human nature. Trigger, behavior, reward. Trigger, behavior, reward. And then you do something cute. Taryn loves it. She lights up. You see it. And then the relationship is better.
Or you just get the check for doing it. That's a reward for me too.
Exactly. Yep.
It's not all about... It is. It's a friendly reminder. So people will say, how many times do you look at it a day? Once. I look at my tracker pretty much once a day. I know what's on there. There's two thoughts. One, I know what's on there. And two, if I do my day the way I'm supposed to, everything's going to get checked off anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the weird piece of it is I don't even have to know what's on there. I know what I'm supposed to do.
I track it. I have it up. So I have two, and again, it's Freestyle Friday, so sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I don't want to make it about me. There's a 52-inch behind me over here. For those of you on YouTube, what's happening? And then I have my Zen book over here on the left, and I always have it on my Zen book. So I'm working on my main laptop, and then my Zen book, which is like a little mini laptop that we're recording on right now, always has my calendar and or my tracker up. Because that's my goal, is to stay on track. That's kind of fairly new. I think that was within Q2. But I check my tracker, dude, half dozen times a day for sure.
I don't check it. I might.
Do you
check
update the next day, or do you update day of?
I update next day.
Okay, that's why. Yeah,
I update next day.
I update as I go.
Most of my stuff is done first thing. So when I wake up, I weigh myself.
Yep.
I look at my calendar. It's like, okay, yesterday I did 2 podcasts, so this is the number. Okay, this is how many listens we have. Alan does the finances, and it just auto-populates to my spreadsheet. I don't do it just shows up, which is nice. So yeah,
imagine I just throw a couple mil in there.
I'm waiting. Been waiting.
Imagine I get a phone call from Kev. Hey,
I've been centered, and I've been manifesting millions, and I'm waiting on the kid to put them in there.
Throw an extra 100K in there. See if I get a phone call.
Couple of years. But yeah, I don't really. I kind of do the same thing every day. I know I say I don't have a morning routine. Now I kind of do. Shout out to the amazing Next Level social media team. I'm not doing anybody's social media anymore, which is awesome because I actually have time to do stuff for me, which is great. And the team is crushing it. Amazing. Shout out to Nicole, Jerry Ann, Riley, crushing it. I now actually do have somewhat of a morning routine, but it's the same thing. I come in the office, I open this up, I usually check my emails, I track the listens, I batch WhatsApp. Those are like the things I do. I do those before I do anything. There's still sleepies in my eyes, and that's what I'm doing because I just feel like that's a really good flow. And that's a whole nother conversation is figure out, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
You disappointedly, he was like, the other thing that I've been really thinking about a lot lately, and we'll do a full episode on this at some point, but when you find the right schedule for you, it is the best thing ever of all time.
Yeah.
10 p.m., Tara and I go to bed almost every night.
Nice.
6 a.m., I get up. Every morning, pretty much, 7 days a week. I'm not saying that because it's like, oh, I'm getting up earlier than you on Saturday and Sunday. I like it. I really enjoy getting up. So Saturday night, UFC was on. I ordered Domino's. We talked about that. And it was like 10:15. No, sorry. It was like 9 o'clock. And I was like, babe, I want to come to bed and watch it in bed. And you can snuggle on me. What do you think? And she's like, yeah, I'll be ready for bed soon so you can come in. I was like, awesome. This is awesome. So I went and laid down and I watched UFC and she was watching it a little bit with me. And then I ended up like falling asleep. And I got up at 6 on Sunday. I went out into the living room. I sat on the couch while I drank my energy drink and I watched the fights. I watched the fights at 6:15 on Sunday. It was awesome. while I was getting ready for the gym. It was the best. It was the absolute best. So that's a whole nother thing. When you find your schedule and you find your flow, it's easier to be consistent. It's so much easier.
But how many years did it take you to get to that schedule?
Well, it took me many years to get to, but also have the privilege to do it not privilege, demand,
Yeah.
whatever you want. I remember I used to do calls at 7 a.m. on Saturday. Now,
Recently,
10 a.m. is the first one. Go ahead.
Recently, Amelia and I, we went to Target a couple weekends ago, 2 weekends ago. We went and saw Inside Out 2, and then we were there, and Target's there, so we went to Target, and I had a moment. It was like storming, and for those of you in the area who know Millbury Mountain, it's beautiful up there. And that place is always packed, by the way. In an era where retail is going out, like in-person retail is going out,
Yeah,
they
that's very
crush.
true.
They crush. It is, though. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, and Millbury Mountain's always packed. So, whoa, right? Talk about perfect location, and it's awesome up there. I love it. Qdoba, you got everything you need.
I haven't been in so long.
It's awesome up there. Big fan. Barnes & Noble, great. Yeah. So anyways, little Starbucks in there. So we're at Target. I had a moment way back in the day. I used to park in the back of the Target and do my coaching sessions in my Subaru. My Subaru. Like all day. I would live in my car, man, practically. Obviously,
Was it on the way home from the studio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I would try to maximize my time, and I remember back then I also used to do bottomless coffee at Panera all the time. So that was the other reason I was in Millbury, because I would be doing my back office work, tracking all my metrics and stuff in Panera, bottomless coffee. Then I'd have a front-facing call. I can't do that in Panera,
right?
Because I don't want to coach with people in the background and stuff. I think it's a very private setting. It needs to be. I think that's important. So I would go in my car, and it'd be summertime, 95-degree weather. I'm in my Subaru, the AC's cranking, and I'm just trying to... as much as life is still really challenging, business is really challenging, I don't think that will ever change, quite frankly, unless you're climbing a smaller mountain, which we're not. We're just... the mountain keeps getting higher as you climb it. When I have moments like that, I really do appreciate how far we've come, because, dude, that sucked. That really sucked.
Yeah.
And one of my clients, shout out to Bianca, she's been with me for 5 years off and on. And she was there, like, she remembers that. She was someone I was coaching back then, on Zoom on my phone in the Subaru. And I don't know, I was taking notes, and it's just cool to look back on that.
You want the ultimate throwback?
Oh, yeah.
I used to shovel the sidewalks at Millbury Mountain in the winter.
Really?
Yep. I used to shovel all the sidewalks.
How old?
Whew. Man. I don't even know. Teens. Teenager. Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there.
The last episode, I teared up talking about how poorly I was treated when I was a busboy and a cart kid at a golf course.
Yeah.
And the busboy, I was very young, and I look young now. Imagine me at 14, right? Or 15, 16. When I go back to that, listen, you and I work 10 to 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Every week. But here's the thing, right? You and I are in our offices. We're virtual. We've got a 30-second commute. Mm-hmm. It's just really important. Yes, it is challenging, and I don't take anything from that. I really don't. But there's something to be said when you used to shovel snow for a living and pump gas for a living and travel all over the East Coast in sketchy hotels for a living. And I also in corporate traveled a ton too, and I couldn't stand it. I hated it so much. And again, it wasn't all bad. I got to listen to my books, and I made a lot of money, and I was grateful for all that. But at the end of the day, I didn't really like travel, especially in a car. I wasn't my favorite. And you're always on the road. You have to eat out all the time. You can't track your calories as well. It wasn't a big fan. But I just go back to those jobs that were really hard. Like, I remember painting houses up in Maine, and it was some days 100-degree weather. Just my shoulder wanted to fall off. If you've ever painted, and I think that it's really important to give yourself that perspective, because truth be told, we work really hard and these days are really hard, and we did 4 full episodes today, and we tracked finances and we track habits and we lead a team, and that can be really emotional. I got into it with one team member recently. Shout out to you if you're listening, and we're good, but it's been hard. It's been really, really challenging. But dude, compared to that, it's a different kind of challenge.
Oh, for sure.
That's the thing. It's almost like never you should never want life to not be challenging, because if you do, you're in trouble. Instead, hope that life's challenges become higher quality challenges. I think that's a really cool lesson.
I remember we would work like overnight. When there was a big storm, I'd be outside shoveling snow all night. It was freezing. It's brutal. We made good money at the time. It was I think I was making like $15 an hour. I think it was like 17 maybe. So that wasn't even, this was just like a side gig we'd do on the weekends or nights or something. But there's something to that. One of the hardest jobs I ever did was the weatherization job. And we were working in New Jersey in a really big school. And a lot of people don't know, some schools have attics. Not all schools, it depends on the school. But there's some schools, there's a hatch in the hallway. And you throw a ladder under there, you go up into the attic. And there's just a bunch of open space. And it has insulation up there. And I am not kidding. It was probably 97 degrees out. And in the attic, it was at 130 degrees minimum. And I have a full Tyvek suit on. I have a mask on, not like an N95, like an actual mask, a respirator that has canisters on the side. And I remember I listened to the same song over and over and over, Tourist by Whit Lowry, great song. And I was single and I was lonely. And now when I listen to that song, it makes me think of Taryn. I don't know what, not because of the song, but just because I was so lonely, thinking of like, wow, one day I'm going to marry someone. But I remember there was a point where I'm dragging this hose. So when you blow insulation into an attic, you essentially run a long-ass hose from the machine, which is outside, all the way through the school up into the attic, and then you drag the hose around and you blow in this insulation, and you got to get it level. Alan, I'm not kidding, and this is just the way I was. There were times where I like fell down because I was so hot and overheated, but I was like sweating. My suit was filled with sweat. One of the hardest days I've ever had in my entire life. After that, nothing's really that hard.
That is exactly... I told Kev one time we were cleaning out the studio, and we were carrying stuff down, and that was just a day of... very nostalgic day, because we had a studio for what, 2 years, 3 years?
I think it was 2 years.
2 years?
I think so.
And we cleaned it out, and it took us a long time, honestly. But there's a dumpster there, and I loved that studio, man. That was awesome.
I miss it.
It's a good chapter. And at one point, I remember you and I had a bunch of stuff on our back. We were bringing it to the dumpster. And I said something along the lines of, if you were soft, this would never work.
Yes.
and if you grew up privileged, there's no way I could work with you. And I think that there's something to be said. Now, if you did grow up privileged, I think that's great. I'm not trying to be unkind to you in any regard. But I do know that there is a benefit to doing things that suck so bad that it level sets your expectations.
Yeah.
So, for example, 7 episodes in a day, we only did 4 today, is like really, really difficult. Our record is 21. You were going away to Scotland. We needed to get all 3 weeks worth, and we made it happen. 21 in 1 week.
I was going to say.
No, in 1 week. 21 in 1 week. 21 episodes in 1 week is nothing short of genuinely brutal. But podcasting is not the same as blowing insulation into an attic that's 130 degrees.
Yeah, no.
And I am telling you, one of the reasons why we seemingly... Some of my clients have sat me down and said, I don't understand. How I'm a YouTuber. I can only do 1 video a week. I don't understand. I say, number 1, we have an awesome team. We didn't start here. And
it's
number 2...
It's a full-time job, too.
Yes, exactly. And number 2, there's a level of grit to this that I wonder sometimes where that comes from. But I know that some of the things that I went through as a kid, you think 21 episodes in a week is going to take me down? No chance, right? We're good. We're going to make it happen. So there's something to be said for grit, and I don't know how else you build it other than just do really hard stuff. And I don't mean do a cold plunge or take a cold shower. I mean set goals that force you outside your comfort zone. And I don't mean outside your comfort zone emotionally. Yes, that too. I mean physically.
Yeah, you got to suffer a little bit.
You got to suffer a little bit. That's you got to suffer a little bit by choice. It has to be by choice.
Yeah.
Because you're going to suffer no matter what when life throws terrible things your way, and that's just life. But if you suffer by choice, there's another level of grit that comes from that there's certain people I coach that you're just going to win because you just are capable of doing things other people aren't because you've suffered so much by choice. And if you can't suffer by choice, you're not going to be as successful as someone who's willing to put that in, because that's the one thing that we can't coach you through. When you're on the field, and I'll be very brief about this. There's this one time it was 100 degrees, and Emilia and I were playing soccer on a field that I now call the hot box. It's brutal down there, and that's where I did my marathon too. I'm not kidding. That was dangerous. All right. When we were playing soccer, it's a football field. So this is a full length football field, and Emilia and I wanted to do 25 there and back. And I'm talking without stopping, in the middle of the hot box. And I was so close to passing out, and so was she, that I just said, we got this, don't stop, we can do this. It's to the point where if I had passed out, I wouldn't have been shocked. Now, I realize football players do that all the time. I realize soccer players do way worse than that. I realize, okay? But those times are the times when I know I'm getting an edge inside my own ability to develop grit. I'm not doing it because anyone's watching. There's no one there except Emilia and I. I'm doing it because I need to train my brain to do hard things when they're necessary. And I believe that's a huge part of the reason why you and I have been able to get to where we are. And I would be lying if I didn't think that our listeners need to develop that. You need grit. And there's a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. And I don't necessarily think it's a great book. I don't think it's a bad book. I think the concept is really important.
Somebody asked me one time, it was a great podcast. I don't remember what it was. But he said, do you feel like most people can do what you guys have done? And I said, no. And I said, I don't think it would be healthy for most people. And he said, why? And I said, well, there's 2 of us. So automatically, if you're on your own, we're going to do at least twice the amount of work. It's very hard to make up for that.
Yeah.
I said, Alan's a genius. If you don't have that, you don't have the same strategy. And I said, honestly, I just don't think most people are willing to suffer to the same degree. And I'm not making that wrong. I'm not saying you should want to. But what we have signed up for, our lives are not going to get any easier, quote unquote. Some things will, right? Eventually, money makes certain things much easier. That's true. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't true. But it's not like eventually Alan and I are going to go live on an island somewhere and never work again. Like, that's never going to happen. Probably higher likelihood of me doing that than Alan, but I can't imagine that happening. I said, I think we're just really good at suffering. I think a lot of it comes from the bodybuilding. There's a little piece of me. There's this little voice in my head that's like, hell yeah, man, you're suffering. When I'm at the gym and I don't want to be there and I have no energy and my stomach is making all sorts of noises, a certain song will hit and I just start bobbing my head. It's like, this is the good stuff. This is really good.
Nice.
Because it makes you feel alive and it makes you appreciate stuff.
Yep.
It makes you appreciate stuff. I'm not saying to cold plunge because I do think it's dumb, honestly. I think it's for a lot of us, I think it's a really dumb use of your willpower. Yeah, you want to wake up and jump in a cold tub? Awesome. If it does it for you, do it. But not at the expense of doing something else that's more valuable. That's my truth. But if that's what helps you build grit, do it. Awesome. That's not how I want to do it. I'd rather go to the gym and grind out a really hard workout. But anything that is going to force you to literally say, this is going to suck. This is physically going to suck. It's physically going to test me. It's going to be physically uncomfortable. And then you challenge yourself to do it. I think that's always going to be a good thing to try. I miss jiu-jitsu because of that. I miss it because I was suffering. I was getting beat on. I miss that. It's humbling. It grounds you. It's super, super humbling. It's harder to do that to yourself.
Yeah. The 5K, that's why I liked it.
Yeah.
Because as much as I don't consider it super impressive to do a 24-minute 5K, and there's a lot of different things. And that's why it's like, oh, keep talking about the 5K. It's not about the 5K. It's about testing myself. We have very little stories to talk about because we don't do anything. So when we do something of note, we do talk about it often, but that's why. We got to. It's a good metaphor.
There's nothing else. I got nothing else for you.
It's a good metaphor.
I had pizza and I watched UFC.
Yeah.
That's all I got. And I'm married.
And I tested my ability to put down an entire pizza myself. Pepperoni and banana
pepper. Get it
3
right.
banana peppers. Yeah, pepperoni and banana pepper. During the 5K, there was a moment, I talked about it. I said, you will not stop. You cannot stop. Do not stop. Emilia had a moment where she did walk for a very short time, and I knew that was not in alignment with, I knew she was upset about it. It's just not in alignment with her identity.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to shame her or guilt her for that. But she's been trying to tell me, like, my cardio is not what I want it to be. It's not as good. We found out why, by the way. Tiny side tangent. In the gym, we've been doing really hardcore hit weight training, and her wrists, she has these tiny little hands. She has tiny hands and feet. She's so cute. She's 5'3". She's this little thing, but she's strong as hell. I have been diagnosing why her cardiovascular hasn't come up as much as mine has. I said, you're stopping the weights not because your muscles are fatigued or because your cardio is fatigued. You're stopping because of your grip. You have smaller hands than I do, so it's harder to grip, and you use grip assists, or maybe you don't anymore. I don't know.
Always. I think it's dumb not to.
Okay, fair. She doesn't want to use grip assists, and she has these tiny little hands, and dude, it's a huge advantage to have big hands in the gym. Huge advantage. Yeah. And we use chalk and whatever. The point is that I said, are you stopping the end of your sets at failure? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, what part is failing? Is your cardio failing? Is your strength failing, your muscle fatigue, or is it just because of sheer volume, or is it because of strength, like weight? You can't lift that weight. And I said, if you're going to train for strength, make sure the thing that you fail at is the thing you want to grow. And so for me, lately, I've been trying to fail based on strength, not based on cardio. But prior to the 5K, between the timed mile that I got a lot of humble pie and the 5K, I was trying to stop because of my cardiovascular. I was trying to push my cardiovascular, and then we're in a cut now, so I'm trying to do strength. But at the end of the day, you can't stop because of your grip. Now she's going to actually use lifting gloves. I know, Kev, I know you're against it. She's going to use lifting gloves.
Look, I'm not. I'm against you using them.
Okay.
Anybody else wants to use gloves, use them. I'm against Alan using them.
Okay, fair. I might actually use them. We'll see. Because
That's
I
just
don't
the
want my Oura
hardcore-
ring to get destroyed.
That's the hardcore bodybuilder. The Oura ring's going to be fine. I lift every day with the Oura ring. It's scratched up, but it builds character.
I don't want it scratched up, man.
It's fair. You do you. I'm not. Who am I to shame you?
Appreciate you, brother. But here's the deal. Get outside your comfort zone, whatever the bottleneck is. If it's physical suffering that's your bottleneck, you're going to have to go work on that. If it's intellectual, I remember when Kevin and I first started working together, he would gas out intellectually. Cognitively, his brain would shut down. But look at how smart you've become. I mean, your brain is, dude, how much more powerful is your brain? Seriously, not with the humility thing. Like,
it's much more powerful than it used to be. I don't know how much more powerful, but I don't know. I do feel like a very smart person, which is weird for me because I never did. And I hang in conversations with people that are world-class smart. And it's very strange. So
NASA doctor.
NASA
right?
Doctor, space doctor. Didn't know that was a thing. Thought that was only on TV. Much smarter. But
the only doctor I know is Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. That's right. You know it. There's got to be a couple other ones. Dr. Seuss.
McGillicuddy?
Dr. McGillicuddy. I had that moment happen recently where I was like, it was the end of a long day and I was talking to someone and they were just going off. They were like so passionate about what they were talking about. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this right now. My brain is so tired. It was ready for a nap, but it was really good.
So physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. For me, my bottleneck is emotional. It's usually relational. I need to get outside my comfort zone in my relationships. The team member I mentioned that I had a hard conversation with, that took a ton of courage, and the whole rest of the day was hard for me. So, and then spiritual, that I don't really know necessarily how you test that other than check in with yourself, breath work, energy, fulfillment, are you in alignment with your calling, that kind of thing. But physical limitations hold us back. And particularly the people out there that identify as spiritual, I know a lot of our listeners do. The physical side of things might be holding you back. You might not be as willing to suffer physically. One of my clients suffers physically, but she struggles mentally, cognitively. One of my other clients is super spiritually connected, but she struggles with physical discomfort. All of us have a bottleneck, and it's very important to identify what that is. And so for Kev, it was never going to be a physical bottleneck because you were willing to grind almost to a detriment. So for you, I think it was cognitive.
I would say so. I'm still willing to grind to a detriment, just not as much of a detriment. I'm trying to be more sustainable. And we got to go. We'll get out of here because I know these episodes this week have been super long. We've just been in flow, having good conversation, and we didn't want to get off the mics. I've noticed that I try to be way more proactive. It's like, I feel like my throat is getting sore. What can I do? Like, okay, let me eat a little bit extra. Let me drink extra. Maybe get 9 hours of sleep instead of 8. I've been trying to focus more on staying on the field than anything. That's kind of been like one of my frames. Like, just stay on the field. Stay on the field. Stay on the field. It's about longevity. So that's a little something too. All right. If you are focused on getting to the next level, little by little, day by day, moment by moment, make sure you are subscribed on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on. It would be a subscribe on Apple and a follow on Spotify, I believe. And then make sure you're subscribed on YouTube as well. Again, it's hard to get better every day, especially when you wake up and you don't feel like it. But it may be a gentle kick in the butt saying NLU has dropped a new episode will help get you there. And you know we're never going to miss, so we will be in your pocket every single day.
If you're not yet on the NLU mailing list, shout out to Jerry Ann. She does awesome emails for us. The emails are designed to keep you informed about what's going on. So gentle, friendly reminders. Hey, group coaching's coming up. Hey, we have a monthly meetup coming up. Hey, here's Alan's blog. Hey, Dreamliner, whatever it is. So if you want to be on the mailing list and a bigger part of the NLU community, email me, alan@nextleveluniverse.com. Just first, last name, and email address. Obviously, if you're emailing me, I'll have your email address. You will be added to the mailing list. Email me, and you'll get those emails. Usually there's about one email per week. Very occasionally we'll do 2 emails per week if there's 2 things going on that are really important.
Depends if we're trying to sell like any llamas or horses or something. If we're trying to sell farm animals, we will email you 7 times that week. I'm definitely kidding. All right. As always, We love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep it gritty. Next Level Nation.